in that moment, I was like, what the fuck? This guy has just cost me 12 months of my life. Was that a joke before when you said, when I said, can you hear me? And then you said, yeah. And then you said, what?
No, it wasn't. It cut out a little bit, but hopefully it doesn't cut out anymore.
Okay. All right.
Because now we're live. We're
We're
rolling.
rolling.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Welcome on the Growing Up podcast, Neil Ganju.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself? I
Sure.
haven't figured out how to start these yet. So I've just kind of been asking people to either we just start talking and then it's recording, but then the person kind of never even says who they are, so it's a bit weird. Or I ask them to introduce themselves
Y-
as we start recording, but then it's like a bit weird because it's obviously like, I know who you are.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I've listened to a few of your episodes. Some of the intros have been really good. But wait, are you going to ask me the question, where did you grow up?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
after you introduce yourself, I
Okay.
think.
All right. Because that's how I introduce myself normally to most people is I start from where I grew up.
From childhood.
No, my name, sorry, I'm apologies to everyone listening, the millions of you, but I've got a terrible cold at the moment, so I sound very blocked up. Um, but my name's Neil, and I live in Melbourne. Currently, I'm in Brisbane for work. I work in the construction industry, and I met Delia at university. We both went to Cambridge together. We both met in 2021 during COVID and played a game of. We both played the varsity game Oxford versus Cambridge in Australian rules football. It's quite a good meeting story, I think.
Mm. And well, yeah, because we actually became friends because I had to call you to tell you I had
Oh,
COVID or something like that, didn't
that's
I?
right.
Oh, oh no, yeah, there's a whole backstory actually that we won't go into. But anyway,
That's right.
but I think we actually immediately bonded over failure in terms of, oh yeah, because our one mutual connection was someone who had rejected me, and I was really, there was a knife wound still in my heart. But then you were talking openly and about, yeah,
Yeah,
failure, yeah, perceived failures with relationships. And
yeah,
then you just, I guess that's connection, right? Vulnerability creates connection.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Yeah, no, I forgot about the COVID part. That was pretty integral. I think as well, were we watching the
Uh,
tennis or something too? Was the plan to
yeah,
go to the
Wimbledon
pub
was
to watch
on.
the tennis? That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when I got
Um,
you into tennis.
yeah, I'm not sure about that. And that's when earlier in the day you'd been sitting outside Trinity smoking a cigar,
Yeah.
riding around on a scooter. Um, so, wait, I just thought of something I was about to say. Oh, you didn't introduce yourself saying you're the national director.
Yes. Well,
I'm, I,
I work in construction, uh, in kind of engineering management, project management, and my kind of special interest is around using digital to reduce the, again, apologies for my voice, but to reduce the carbon footprint of the buildings that we design and build. Because at the moment, about 11% of the world's carbon footprint is it's related to construction, and I think about 8%. So the majority of that 11% is just from the production of cement for concrete. So, the human population is on the way to 10 billion people. People always need shelter, and they need roads to get to work, or they need trains to get to work. They need buildings to work in. We're always going to need some kind of shelter, and we need to build that shelter for those people. However, we're also trying to, reduce the greenhouse gases that we produce as a species. So it's a really interesting problem that we face in construction, because there's not many kind of reliable substitutes for steel and concrete that can be produced at scale. So yeah, that's kind of my special interest. That's what I was studying at university. So that's what I do now in my new job.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to put that in the bio.
Okay.
National director in the description of this episode. But yeah, no, that's something. Oh, should I just grab this? I can just see the Bill Gates book 2 meters away from me. But I thought it was a third, or he categorizes it as building things is one category, and it's like I thought it was a third of emissions are to do with what we build. So yeah, that's concrete, steel, and steel comes under that. But it's like as much as how we power things. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just I'm obsessed with that book. I think everyone should read it.
Yeah, no,
because it really makes sense of the issue
have
that
told
it's
me to read
the
it a few
fertilizer thing
times.
as well.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I
I
mean,
think
look,
you're probably already aware of these things, but
as
it's like the fertilizer. So many people aren't aware of the fertilizer thing. It's like we need to feed people,
yeah,
and fertilizer. It's a whole thing. So yeah, it's not as simple as just because I think it gets overly simplified that people think it's just about switching from switching to electric vehicles or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
It's like way more complicated than that.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, look, as we've spoken about it, but as kind of people's energy to switch on the lights at home, or to if they change to an electric vehicle, charge their car, or as buses change to electric buses, and hot water systems change to electric, etc., etc. As everything becomes electrified, that percentage of how the percentage of greenhouse gases that are related to construction will just increase, because at the moment the way that we produce cement is reliant on these furnaces that make this thing called clinker, and they burn coal or gas. And the technology that exists to capture the emissions from burning that fossil fuel to make the clinker is kind of very experimental. I don't know if Bill Gates talks about carbon capture that isn't like soil sequestration or planting trees or growing seaweed, like actual kind of, it's almost like a giant vacuum that sucks up the greenhouse gases and then pumps it back into like a cavity under the earth. But that technology is still quite experimental. So for something as ubiquitous as concrete and cement production, having that kind of technology is not really it's not really realistic at the moment. That technology needs to catch up. But yeah, the proportion of greenhouse gases that are related to construction will just increase as everything becomes electrified.
Why is that?
Well,
Because you
because
need more infrastructure.
no, just because we're like the electricity will come from wind, solar, maybe geothermal, nuclear. So electricity for the grid will come from like sources that don't result in producing greenhouse gases, but
Yeah.
in order to make steel in a furnace or make cement, they still need to burn fossil fuels. They haven't come up, like there
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
these things called electric arc furnaces, which could potentially use hydrogen. I think there's some special methods that you can use hydrogen to create steel as well.
Yeah.
But that's all
I think
like,
that's what Bill Gates talks about. But why are you saying it will increase just as a function of population
no,
increases? Like we need
just
more
the
building.
proportion.
Is that what you mean?
The proportion will increase.
Oh, the proportion's just
Yes,
going to increase. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, got it.
yeah,
And and then the part I'm working on with this startup is the efficiency, because even when we have it's like all that solar, wind, whatever, nuclear, it's so much of it is wasted for just through inefficiency in the power supply. So, but yeah, until fertilizer and concrete and steel are figured out, it's like, there's still more to figure out. But there are lots of solutions. I don't think he gives a lot of to that carbon capture stuff. Also, he explains, this is why I think everyone should read it, because it's like this stuff with trees, like it just makes people way more informed when it's like they're paying to offset or something like that. And it's like, do you want to find out how they're actually offsetting? Because if it's like planting trees, I made a TikTok about that. It's like planting trees. If you plant trees in a area that usually has a lot of snow cover, it actually makes it worse for the climate, because the trees are darker coloured, so instead of reflecting, the snow would usually reflect the sun's rays. So if you put trees there, it's the opposite effect. And then it's like, it's all, if you plant it where usually like soya beans were grown or something, then you're just going to push up the price of soya, or someone might then tear down another bit of forest to, do you know what I mean? So it's like,
yes, yeah,
it's complicated, but that book helps simplify it and is hopeful. It's like, I just love the problem solving. I mean, and I guess that's what you're doing. You're actually working on solutions rather than catastrophizing or like name calling, or, there's a lot of people who are just like, we're all going to die, so let's just all be angry and yell for the rest of our lives.
And throw tins of soup over Vincent van Gogh paintings. Did you see that one?
That was insane. I couldn't believe that was real.
It's all there. All
Is
the paintings. Because when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's pretty intense." But all the paintings are protected in glass, so it's not damaging the painting.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
What? There's like a really thin layer of glass over
yeah,
top.
yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. They haven't. The soup or whatever they threw went on the like glass cover over the painting.
But it must be
I
some
get,
special glass that isn't reflective or whatever. Obviously. Are
must
you
be.
bullshitting? I can't tell if this is real.
No, seriously, because
We'll get a art conservationist on here next to tell us about what happened.
well, it's probably like a glass box that has like a cat burglar alarm or something to stop someone stealing it.
But do you think that was a stunt, like how that Greta Thunberg thing that you investigated? Investigated, it's a big word, but you've talked to me about that, but I didn't exactly follow. But do you think that's a similar thing of, someone's behind it and it's all orchestrated, like how it's filmed, and it's and even with the pre-coordinated with the media, or
I don't know.
or
What's that group?
something like that?
That same group did several things in the UK in the last week. Like they sprayed New Scotland Yard with orange paint. They sprayed Aston Martin dealerships with orange paint. I think they're just young people who are angry, pissed off, whatever, and that's how they're showing their frustration, and they also feel that they're being righteous and, making a political statement.
Did you see the thesis one as well?
No.
On on Tom, Sir Tom, the 100-year-old man who walked around his garden. Oh, it was a huge thing here, but maybe it didn't
No,
make
no.
global news.
How does this
Oh no,
relate
that
to,
would for
how does this
sure
relate to
make news. That
feces?
would for sure have made news in Australia. Australia loves that
No, it
type
did.
of
It did.
story. Yeah, no. So there's a statue of him, and a girl poured human feces. I'm not sure whose, presumably her own, or don't know whose, poured it over the statue, and wearing it was something about private jets, and it was like, you're shitting on Tom or
What?
something. Yeah, look it up.
Hang on, Captain
Oh,
Captain Tom.
oh yeah, Captain Tom.
Hang on, I'm looking this up now. Oh my God. Woman admits
That was in
defecating, defacing. Jesus.
yeah, with
Why
defecation.
did she
It was
do that?
it wasn't, she didn't do it live. It was she'd prepared it earlier, the feces, and
Oh
brought
my
it along.
God.
But surely these are very, it's all organized, like to have it, to create this outrage. And then, yeah, classic, I'm now seeing this pattern so clearly that I probably hadn't seen when we did the cancel culture podcast. That now it's like, yeah, these people from the other side, it's just this outrage thing. So then it's like the job of people like Piers Morgan or Darren Grimes or someone like that to then point out, say the other side. But it's just, that's also like their job is to create outrage. Do you see what I mean? And
Hmm.
it's just like this cycle. Well, yeah, that's what you pointed out to me, that it's like these newspapers, they just deliberately find like extremely woke thing or
Yeah.
whatever, to then create outrage. And then that's how they sell newspapers and get people to talk about it. And then, yeah, there are people who it's literally their job to say outrageous things.
Yeah.
And whether they even believe it themselves or they just... But I don't know. Do you know who Piers Morgan is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, do you think he would actually... Like, he's probably playing it up, right? Or do you think he actually believes this is insane? Like, this girl... Like, I don't know exactly what he tweeted about it, but... How
Didn't
much of it do you
he?
think is real?
I don't know. I think like when he walked off. Remember when he stormed off because they were talking about Meghan Markle?
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
that was staged. He just says he tries to shock people.
But then I don't think he meant to have lost his job on Good Morning Britain. My friend used to be the producer for that show. Maybe we can get her on and get the
Yeah, ask
inside
her. No, I mean,
scoop.
I can't remember. You just reminded me that he lost his job, but I mean, the columns that he writes, who does he write for? The Daily Mail?
Sometimes, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
But yeah, he's just one example.
yeah.
Um, but anyway, I'm just very happy to be.
I think he's very good at it. Like he's very good at blurring the line between is he a shock jock that's just trying to rile people up, or is he being sincere and this is what he really thinks. When you see someone bad at it, like there's an Aussie journalist, I guess you'd call him, called Steve Price. Do you know him?
Not
Oh, yeah,
sure.
basically, he'd been out of the limelight in Australia for a couple of years, and he says he's like he's older guy, can be quite conservative in his views, and he wrote this opinion piece in the Herald Sun saying AFL, women's AFL isn't real. Like, what did he? Oh fuck! I'm going to butcher it, but basically it was along the lines of, I don't think this is a profession. This is professional sport. I don't think it's the standard of professional sport. And so he put in the Herald Sun, and it was so obvious that he was just writing a headline to wind people up. Then they brought him on the project, and it was more like my perspective of it was like, what he said is, you know, don't agree with what he said, but he's just said it in order to stir the pot. Like and it's like an obvious, he's obviously trolling. Like, he's obviously said something that people will get, because, you know, women's AFL is quite popular in Australia, or AFLW, and it's encouraging lots of young girls and women to play. And then for him to come out and say, no, like, this entire league is not, you know, it's obviously, he's just trying to wind people up. And the Herald Sun posted it just to wind people up, just to get that, like, clickbait, like, rage, whatever.
Sell papers.
Yeah. So Piers Morgan,
I
I think is really good because you can't tell, but then there's really obvious people who are just trying to press buttons.
And I think it's good that people know that that's what's going on, like, from both sides. Or would it be from both sides? Yeah, I guess. From any angle. Like, there are people, that is a way to make money, right? To be outraged. And that is a way to gain a following. To be contrarian or to be outrageous or whatever. And I think, as me and you, who have both probably done that in a social situation, like, because you say stuff to wind people up as a joke. And then, but you're probably more on the joking spectrum, whereas I can say, like, oh, I don't know if I do it as much anymore because I just, it's, people can get upset and then you feel really bad. But, like, I've definitely in the past said controversial things to get reactions out of people. And then I guess it's no different. It's just like doing that, but as your full-time job.
Yeah. Yeah, but that, like, the shock jock has been around for decades.
Well, I wonder if it's like a permanent thing in the human experience.
Probably.
If even in, 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. If it bleeds,
yeah, and I guess there's different motives. Yeah, and there's different motivations because sometimes it's like teasing can be a gentle, a fun thing, but it can turn not fun if the person doesn't receive it well.
Yeah.
But which has probably happened between me and you, of me being super sensitive. But then there's the other side, like, pointing out that someone's, like, ridiculing someone to, like, undermine their argument. And then that's when it turns into nasty stuff, I guess, when there's no respect, when it's no longer either, like, a fun, joking, or it's, like, no longer about just a civil debate, but when it turns into, like, personal attacks and stuff, then that's just really not nice.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the, I guess it's on an extreme scale, but that's Alex Jones. I don't know if you saw that he's, like, is it $1 billion that he has to pay to the families of the Sandy Hook massacre? Because he says all this crazy stuff. People find it, there's that there's a percentage of his viewers who think that everything he says is true, but then there's a percentage that watch him just for entertainment value because he talks about these incredibly outlandish conspiracy theories. But yeah, I mean, you know about the case that he said that it was it was all staged, and then people who watch his show ended up like stalking the families of these kids, and they were like, "You're actors, it's all fake." Like terrible, absolutely horrible for the families. So that's an example of where someone has gone way, way too far.
Yeah. What would make, but yeah, I guess he didn't know yeah, because I've listened to his interview that I think you sent me, and I really felt like he's a sincerely did not, I didn't follow the case super closely, but just from hearing him talk, it seems like he's like a genuinely didn't mean to cause that harm. It was just kind of, he's an idiot for saying that. Like he didn't realize that would be the outcome. And then now obviously he's suffering the consequences. But because, yeah, that is insanely, to imagine like what happened to those
Yeah,
families.
it's awful.
And then on top of that to have people saying, yeah, but what would motivate someone to go and bully those families? Like, why would you? Because it's one thing thinking like, oh, I don't believe it's real. You know, like people think 9/11 was orchestrated by George Bush or whatever. Like that's one thing, but then that's a whole nother level to then say, I'm going to find out how to contact these families and I'm going to, you know, that's like,
Yeah, I know.
what is going on in that person's head to
Yeah,
do that?
yeah, yeah, I know. Well, I mean,
But he,
the other case that's similar. That's, I mean, who knows what the outcome will be, but is the Donald Trump inciting the people to storm the Capitol building in Washington, because that's in the courts at the moment, and that's another one where was it like, okay, obviously the people who all did it have got issues, but who like did he egg them on? I guess that's the Alex Jones thing. Is like these people had issues, but like I mean, the courts have said he egged them on. He directed their, I don't know, like negative kind of energy, or negative energy is putting it lightly, but he directed them towards these families with lies. It's really
yeah,
interesting.
I guess it's creating misinformation that then someone acts on. But with the capital thing, I don't know if all those people have issues necessarily, right? I think that's can happen in crowds. Like if you look at the behavior of crowds, people can act in ways, totally sane people. You know, if you look at like Salem witch hunts or something like that, it's like totally sane people can just start acting in really, you know, ways they wouldn't normally act. And when it's like you're all geared up in a crowd of like, oh, we're going to go and do this. And then if you deeply believe something, as in this isn't to do with the Trump point, this is just to do with, I think some of those people were totally, yeah, like I think the people who, if you're going to stalk someone, and with the Sandy Hook thing, that's like, yeah, you've got some stuff going on. But I reckon storming the Capitol could just be a regular person who just strongly believes something, and then they're caught up in the energy of the crowd, which is really then the thing with Trump. It's like that's inciting violence, because that's a huge amount of power you have to then kind of as their leader to then almost give them permission or something like that to then go and do something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be really interesting what what the outcome of that is, because I think he. Oh, let me just Google it. I think he might have to speak in front
Well,
of them.
he was subpoenaed, I think, a
Subpoenaed,
couple of days ago,
subpoenaed.
but
Yeah,
I don't think he'll like not necessarily go along with the subpoena.
yeah,
Okay, shall we talk about how you grew up?
yeah, yeah. Sure, sure. So, where do people normally start? How far back?
How whatever you wanna say. It's up to you.
So, I was born in America, but I moved to Australia. I moved to Geelong in Victoria, Australia, when I was 3 years old with my family. Then lived in Geelong for a couple years. So I can remember starting kind of kindergarten, pre-kindergarten in Geelong, and then my family moved to the other side of Port Phillip Bay to a little suburb called Mount Eliza. That's the beginning of the Mornington Peninsula, so it's between the closest big area or big suburb or kind of centre is called Frankston. So it's on the bay, it's on the beach in Melbourne. It's about 60 kilometres south of Melbourne, and yeah, I grew up there. Had a really great childhood growing up there. It was between the beach, and then there's also a like little, I think it's a state park, but there's an old Fielding quarry. There's a big cricket football club. So I played football, cricket. Used to swim at the beach, swim at the quarry, ride my bike to school, ride my bike around to mate's place. Like, had a really, really awesome childhood growing up there. Really, really great place to grow up as a kid. Then when I finished high school, I started a degree of construction management at the University of Melbourne, and then I commuted for two commuted for 2 years from the peninsula up to Melbourne Uni, which was it's, it's a very, very long commute because there was trains, trams, and buses involved. So after a couple of years, me and a group of mates, we moved into a share house in Parkville, which is where Melbourne University is. Then far out, finished uni, finished my construction degree. I moved to Western Australia, moved to Perth, got a job in as a quantity surveyor in West Australia, then transferred over to Sydney for yeah, transferred my job over there, and then after Sydney, moved back down to Melbourne. So that brings me to now. There's 32 years summed up.
And you're in Michigan in the US, right?
No, Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota.
Yeah.
And how did you end up there?
I was born there. I was, I think I was carried in my mum's, in my, I was carried in my mum's womb, uh,
Okay.
and then
I
was,
think
she flew, I think, on a plane from Perth.
okay. No, it's so your dad was
Oh, he was
working over
working
there.
there. Yeah, yeah. So he was working
And
and
where are your parents?
studying there.
Where are your parents from?
They were both living in Perth. My dad grew up in Perth. He was born in India, moved to Perth when he was 13 years old, and my mum grew up in the UK, mainly. Well, yeah, my mum grew up in the UK and then moved to Perth when she was in her 20s, and then they met there and stayed there. Then moved to America, had me, had my brother, and then moved to Melbourne.
And can we go back to you? You mentioned finishing school.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how you told me this story? I don't know if you don't want to talk about it, it's fine. But you told me this story. I remember it so vividly, speaking about tennis. Wow, those grass courts at St John's College, Cambridge, we were so lucky to play on. So nice. I mean, I'm just, yeah, jealous because I'm just thinking about because in London, yeah, it's harder to find tennis courts. Anyway, but you told me this story um, about how you went to school, how going to school, that was a really
Yeah, so
big thing
so
from your,
yeah, so I got a scholarship to go to a school in a suburb called Keysborough. Keysborough is about 45-minute commute from Mount Eliza. So I'd get the bus get the bus every day at 7 in the morning, commute into school after picking up other people, things like that. I'd get in around 8:30, so it could be between an hour and an hour and a half each way commuting, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it when I started because it was felt like it was the other side of the world from the peninsula, and peninsula's it's got a bit of a country town feel to it. Everyone kind of knows each other, so all of my friends from sport and from school went to local schools in that area, and for me, I was traveling. Yeah, as I said, what felt like the other side of the world to go to high school. But I'm really glad that I went there. It was a really great experience, and still have friends from high school now. It was good to, I guess, experience public transport and what commuting's like, what getting up early is like for when you get a job and get full time work and things like that. And then yeah, I guess it kind of softened the blow for when I started going to uni.
and what about how you, because the school you got a scholarship to was a private school.
Yeah.
And so what about how did you feel having to now wear, a uniform and a blazer and
Yeah,
when,
that was another thing. Like, I was a 12-year-old kid, so having to wear same thing, getting a bus at 7 in the morning, wearing a tie and a blazer, I wasn't a big fan of. And then getting off the bus after school, the bus would drop us off at the servo. It's the only servo, and there was a milk bar next to the servo in Mount Eliza. Getting off the bus each night at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then there'd be the local kind of, they're always older than me, kids that would hang out outside the service station or the milk bar. They would have, smoking just on their skateboards, whatever. And obviously they would rip into me and the other like two or three kids that caught the bus to school, to our school each day. So that was definitely built resilience. Getting bullied by,
what would they do?
they just yell things out because you were walking past them in a blazer we had a magenta school uniform, wearing a magenta tie and a magenta blazer, and you know just they were just bullies.
And how did it make you feel?
uh, it was fine. I mean, to be fair, as I said, it's a small area, so I think for some of them I actually played football with their younger brothers. So I was friends with their younger siblings. I was never fearful. But I guess you just said everyone handles name calling differently. for me, wasn't too. Obviously, I remember it, so I must have been upset, but I was never like it never really got me down. I think it's just par for the course being a teenager.
And did you understand why you were going to this school that was different to what all your friends were doing? Like, were you happy to go there, or it was kind of, or did your parents explain why, how you were, the education you were getting was, well, I guess the idea is that it's a more valuable education, and that's
Uh,
why you're suddenly wearing a blazer and a tie.
I mean, there's private schools in there's private schools in Mount Eliza, so it wasn't that. I mean, I don't. I think it was more that I got the great opportunity. I was offered a scholarship to go there. So, for them, it was, I guess, would have been partially that they thought it was a good opportunity for me, and then also good opportunity for them to save money on. I mean, school fees for private schools around Melbourne are incredibly high.
But did you understand that as a 12-year-old, or you were kind of like, why do I have to go to this school
Oh
that's
yeah,
so far away without my
I
friends?
was really upset, but you know, at the I was 12. I don't think they were gonna. Well, they didn't just say what school do you want to go to and just send me to whatever school I wanted to. I think they knew that I'd get over it. It wasn't, it's not like they were sending me to army camp or something like that, if that's a thing.
Yeah, yeah. And then at what point did you become grateful for that experience or realize the value in it?
Oh, it would have been a few terms into school when you start to, well, again, for me, everyone's experience could be different, but for me, when I started making friends at school, I was like, oh, this is great. I've got new friends.
Yeah. And did you have to deal beyond general teenage bullying or, name call or whatever, with the bus? Did you deal with any racism during your time at school?
Um, that's an interesting question. At school, I'm sure I did. Nothing that springs to mind. I've got a younger brother. Well, you know him. He's darker than I am, and he certainly was in high school. He definitely did, which was really upsetting for him and for me, I guess, when he told me, because he was only a year behind me in school. Um, but not really. I mean, yeah, as I said, like, I'm sure I did, but nothing that really kind of got to me. I think the one experience that comes to mind for me is when I played cricket. So I played for the local club in cricket, and we were playing against another kind of suburb down on the peninsula. And my dad, who's Indian, I think he was umpiring, and he made a decision, and then parents and kids from this opposition team, we would have been 16 years old, started calling him a black C, like the C bomb. That still sticks in my mind as a time when it was like really disgusting racism directed towards him for, you know, for no
Wow,
reason.
out,
Yeah, yeah,
shouting out
yeah,
at him.
yeah. It was awful.
And how did he respond to that?
He didn't. He just ignored them. I mean,
Did
everyone, other parents who were at the ground, like, it got quite kind of confrontational, but they were the ones who stepped in. My dad didn't, like, what's he meant to do? He can't do anything.
And did you talk about that later at
Nah,
home?
not really. Not really.
Or have you ever talked to him about it or
Nah,
about
nah. I mean,
experiencing?
look, like I don't think we even spoke about it after it happened because it's just, it's like it was upsetting, but like it was. But what can you do? Just acknowledge that someone was racist. Like he would have experienced that a lot more, especially when he was in his kind of youth living in Perth. I think his family was one of the first Indian families to move to Perth. So they would have, he would have had his fair share. As I said, it was my brother's definitely experienced more. He's a, as you know, he's a stand-up comedian. He's had people in Melbourne recently heckle him and heckle him because of what he looks like, because of the color of his skin. And that it's for him, it really, really upsets him, which I don't blame him. It would really, really upset me if I was at my job and someone started heckling me because I wasn't I didn't look like them.
I can't believe that goes on in that situation. Like that's like you're in public, like at
Oh,
a
it was,
gig, because that it's like playing cricket or sledging or something like that. It's like that's one thing, but to do it like fully out in the
mm,
open, like surely other people. Well, I would hope that other people would say like don't say
well,
that.
in the,
Even heckling in general, it's just not very nice.
no, and like heck, there's that, so the story that this story I'm referring to, the bouncers at the club basically like got involved and well, not got involved, but told this it was a couple basically told them to go away, like they were there defending my brother, but yeah, essentially he was performing. A couple in front of him were heckling. They weren't being racist at that time. As a comedian, if you get heckled, they usually dish it back. It's part of I guess it's just part of going to stand up comedy. Rowan said something, he's super witty, said something off the cuff back to this couple who were heckling him. And it must have really, really got to them. I don't know what he said, but basically after the show, he went out the side door to have a cigarette, and then it was a man and a woman, and the man, if he was drunk or not, doesn't really excuse his behaviour, but he was waiting for Rowan basically to come out the side door. And then he walked up to him and then started calling, like, abusing him about being Indian. And then luckily the
Mm,
bouncers came round and told
that's
the guy to
awful.
go away. But it was, that's really fucked up because A, if you heckle, you need to expect that you're going to get something back, and then B, well, three reasons. B, like, don't then wait for the comedian and then go to abuse them more, and then why, like, then to bring race into it as well. It's just this person's got some serious problems.
What would like a friendly heckle sound like?
Um,
That's like all part of the comedy thing. Because the one time I experienced this was someone said not funny, or two people like walking out, and then the guy was like, "Oh, where are you guys going?" And then she like turned around and was like, "Not funny," like like kind of aggressive tone, and then it was really like everyone was kind of like, oh, shocked, because he hadn't really said anything offensive. Like it was weird. Like it was kind of yeah. Everyone was like, oh, what's that about? That she was offended by something, and then everyone was just sitting there a bit shocked, and he was shocked, and then he said, "Don't worry, guys, I'll rape her
oh
later,"
God.
and then it was just like, which I feel, this would have been like 10 years ago. I feel like now that would, you just wouldn't be able to say that. But
Mm,
even back then, it was just a bit like it was clear how like hurt he was that
Yeah,
he'd said
yeah.
something. But so I haven't really experienced a heckle where it's like
So,
what would it sound
so
like if it?
I went to watch one of my brother's mates perform, and he was telling this joke about he was like, it was at Melbourne Comedy Festival. He was like, "What's the deal with trams? Like trams, they only stay in like they're only on their tracks. Like they can't move side to side. What if someone made a tram that could like change lanes or something like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, they're called buses, mate." Like I said that, and everyone in the crowd laughed. And
Oh,
then he like laughed, and he
yeah,
was like, "Fuck," and he was like, "Well, yeah, I can't say anything back." I'd say that's like a friendly heckle.
yeah. Nice. That's funny, Neil.
Yeah, after the show,
You
he
should
was
be a
like,
stand-up comedian.
he,
After the show, he said
no,
what?
after the show, like I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, I'm Rowan's brother." And he's like, "Oh, that was really funny what you said. It really like," he goes, it puts you off more than anything if someone in the audience says something that's like actually really funny and then gets a bigger laugh than like your last joke."
Classic. Um, okay. So, should we go to uni now for you?
The what?
Should we go to your time at uni?
Oh, yeah. So I think I know the story you want me to talk
So
about.
this next,
So
yeah,
in my
this next
undergrad,
story, just painting a,
yeah, go.
I was just going to say painting a picture for the audience. The place I heard this story was on this beautiful beach in Catalonia. Stunning. Only reached by boat, but classic, it was Greece, so
Oh God, that was
Nico, the boat operator,
yeah,
said he wasn't going to work that day and take us, and I was determined to go. So then we had to fight our way
that's
through
right.
the
We
bush for
hiked
like
down.
45
Yeah,
minutes
that was yeah.
from the goat farm. Parked our car near the goat farm. Anyway, yeah,
Can't believe
that's
we
the
made
story.
it down.
Glad we're on the same page.
Okay, yeah. So
Take it away.
I yeah did a did an undergrad at Melbourne Uni. It was meant to take me 3 years, and it ended up taking me five because I think it was my second year, I basically just stopped. Um, I would still go. This is the stupidest thing. I would still go to most classes, but I just stopped handing in any assignment on time because in my first year, I was so blasé about everything. I would give everything on the day or a day late. I'd started a day before, and I managed to get through with reasonably okay marks. I was very lucky. Then in the second year, just that strategy didn't work, so I ended up failing. I think far out. I think I failed three subjects each semester out of four. So it was horrendous, like horrendously bad, massive waste of time, money, effort, spot in the course, etc., etc. Basically, the university.
Because
Sorry.
how long was your commute? Was it like a 2 hour commute?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it was like between an hour and a half. So that was the other thing is I was commuting up there, just huge waste of time. Now, even talking about now, it's like, God, what was I thinking? I was loving
And
living life. Like I had two jobs. I was playing for local footy club. Like had a great, like awesome social life. I think I was 19 years old, just having an absolute ball, and was just taking the piss with this opportunity I had at uni. Anyway, after the second
what were the
semester,
jobs you were working?
they weren't even good jobs. One was like I was delivering pizza for the local pizza shop, and then that was at night. And then during actually, like they were very, I guess, like standard part time jobs for a young person. So I was delivering pizza and then I was working in a factory during the day. Um,
Doing what?
just sanding and varnishing timber.
And what inspired you to do that? Was that just kind of the thing that everyone had everyone had jobs, like all your friends, or was it your parents kind of pushed you, or you just had a sense of you wanted to
Oh, I was
be
just enjoying. I was just in.
pay your
Oh
own
yeah, I
way?
was just enjoying making money. And then I was like, well, this is great. I can work, work at night, make cash in hand, and then work during the day, getting paid pretty good. Like they were long shifts, so the money was pretty good. So I was just enjoying making money, and then going to the pub, traveling traveling. I think I traveled to Asia, traveled to travel around Australia, just enjoying life as a 19-year-old. But yeah,
And you were
carefree,
single.
even though I was meant to be studying as well. So at the end of the second semester, after I'd failed these other three subjects.
Wait, but sorry, what happened after the first semester when you failed? Were you not like, oh, I need to get my act
Oh
together?
yeah, I was like, yeah, I'll do better this time, and I didn't change anything.
Were you were you worried about having to repeat
I
those
think I was frustrated.
subjects?
I was frustrated that I had to repeat, but there was zero like, it's a university. They're not there to spoon feed you. They gave me like this. I don't know what the job title would be, but this person basically to like help help me choose my subject so it wouldn't happen again. And the person was, I mean, anyway, all I had to do basically, the condition to go
What?
into the next semester
Useless.
was to meet this person, met the person, tick that box, chose the subjects, failed again, and then after that, I got this letter saying we're going to. I think it was a forced deferral for 12 months. I was like, nah, stuff that. I'm not doing that. I don't want to lose and another whole year. It was, I think, like I'm guessing the university does that to kind of force people's hand and get them to, if they're really not loving the course, just to quit, basically. So I got this letter. I was like, shit, this is really bad because now, like, I did want to finish the degree, but they weren't letting me come back for 12 months. So on this letter, paper letter, they had a few boxes you could tick if you wanted to dispute whether or not, well, the way I interpreted it was like tick this box if you want to dispute kind of our ruling. So I did that and I sent it back and they called me in to meet this panel. And I went in and met the panel. This was at the end of the academic year. And then the first question they asked me, they're like, so how do you think you were discriminated against? How do you think you were discriminated against? I was like, guys, you've got the completely wrong idea. I don't think I've been discriminated against. I've just taken the piss. I was like, I've been working two jobs. I haven't been coming to class. I haven't taken it seriously. I was super honest with them, which I think they,
Who was on the panel?
it was, I think at a associate dean is that a position? It wasn't the dean, but it was dean of my faculty, but it was someone quite senior in the faculty with a few other academics. And then I told them the
And
story.
did you like put a tie on?
What was I wearing? It's really funny actually. There's a photo of what I was wearing. I think it was a polo top because straight after this panel meeting, there was a music festival on. So the panel meeting was at Melbourne Uni, and then straight after that, I went and met my mates at a music festival at the Melbourne Showgrounds.
Which music festival?
What was it called? Sorry for the swearing. Uh, I can't remember. Anyway, I went to this.
One of the doof doof
No, no,
ones.
no, no. This was like a rock and roll one. Um, oh, it wasn't Soundwave.
Fun.
It was similar though. Anyway, I I told them, I didn't feel like I was discriminated against, but basically I told them, pled my case, and then a week later I got a letter saying, yep, you can come back to university, but we're watching you basically. And then, yeah, I went back.
Wait, so you convinced them I'll turn everything
Yeah,
around?
yeah, yeah,
Like, please give me a
yeah,
chance.
yeah.
And did you think they would?
Uh, I actually don't know. I mean, when I got in and they told me that it was a panel discussion to determine if I'd been discriminated against, I was that threw me off massively because I was like, shit, like I haven't been discriminated against here. These people are doing like, the other people that would go to see them, there could be some really serious cases going on. For me, it was just this person, this guy is like just not taking his educate this opportunity seriously. But yeah, no, I ended up yeah. So they let me back in. The only condition was head the heads of each subject had to say I could start, and then one guy said I couldn't, which was really frustrating because that did set me back like another couple months. But yeah, then I finished the degree, made a good bunch of mates, and still mates with some of them now, some not, some um, and yeah, then the rest was history.
So this is the problem with this podcast when I get people to repeat stories. It's like the time you tell it the first time, it's always way better. It's like impossible to recreate. But it was really what you no, it's probably because the questions I asked the first time I'm hearing it are like, really spot on, I guess, and it's hard to recreate the questions. But you had really painted this picture for me that it was like you felt like, yeah, an idiot, and that because, like, were you confident that because that was kind of part of your attitude as well. I think that's something you told me as well in when we're in the Himalayas, that you were just so confident, like, oh, I need an extension on this, and you said, well, you can tell the story if you want, like how you wrote the email, like, can I have an extension?
Oh, for my postgrad.
No, but how you were just so blasé and like, yeah, I can make stuff happen, and
No,
then
that was the thing. I was so
you
blasé.
ask for an extension, and the guy's like, no.
Yeah. No, I was so blasé about it. And then the uni said you have to get permission from, as I said, the heads of each subject. And I went to this guy's lecture, and then after the lecture, I went and met him up, like after. I was like, hey mate, look, I've enrolled, you just need to approve it. This has happened, blah, blah, blah. And because the uni had said, you're okay, but we're watching you, I just assumed that this guy would be like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. And he was like, nah. And I was like shook. I didn't know how to react. Just got told no. I had no other. I tried to. I was following him down like the hallway, like trying to convince him otherwise, and he was just like, no. He goes, come back in 12 months' time. Because it was one of those subjects where I had to do that first semester, which led on to one in the second semester. It was only offered in semester one. I was like, in that moment, I was like, what the fuck? This guy has just cost me 12 months of my life. Even though it was just one subject, but I was just like, holy shit. I was just, yeah, I was shocked.
And were you angry at him?
Uh, probably, probably. But I mean, I think back on it now, and it's like it's all part of the plan, I suppose. It all worked out in the end.
Yeah. And how did your parents get? Because you were living at home. Was moving out of home part of that decision to take it more seriously?
Well, that was the other thing was I moved out, so I moved to 5 minutes from the university, and that was a big change as well. Because it was just easy. There was no excuses for not going. There was no excuses for going, coming home, and then having to start work straight away. Like it was, that was a that made a big difference for sure.
And did your parents give you a hard time about it?
Uh, I think they were just like, what are you doing? Like I think they were just perplexed that I would keep trying to stay in the university, but then not do any work. It's like it must be like people who get on the dole and then they work really hard to stay on the dole rather than getting a job. It's like, people like apply for fake jobs or apply for jobs and then deliberately bomb the interview or just so they can say, oh, look, I'm trying to get work and then keep getting, keep getting welfare payments.
Yeah, well, I think that's a whole nother topic. Um, did you internalize the feeling of being a failure, or you just thought, I can do this stuff. I know have the intellectual capacity. It's just that I wasn't applying myself.
I
So
think it was the big block I had to get past, which is what I really felt in the second semester was when I was trying to hand assignments in, doing them the day before, and I was able to really cram and smash a lot out in like a day. But the times when I was just like, nah, like, it could be like a 6 week long assignment. I try and do it in a day or two. That was what was really, I was like, this is so dumb. I need to get past just leaving things to the last minute, procrastinating, not wanting to start, etc., etc., etc. All of those things. So that was like a big challenge that I needed to, like an internal challenge I needed to tackle.
and how did you overcome that?
Just um, just doing it. I think I was talking to someone. It was either a friend that I'd made at uni or a mate's brother who was a bit older who had finished uni. And someone one day was just like, all you need to do is you just need to do the work. Like you just need to do it and you'll be fine. And then that was like, as ridiculous as that sounds, because it's so obvious, I just was like, cool. And I think from then I was like, okay, being given an assignment, I'll finish it within a week or I'll finish it as soon as I can. And as soon as I started doing that and getting good mark, like passing, getting better marks, I was like, oh, like, why didn't I do this the first 2 years of my course? I could have finished by now.
And did you have any were you hard on yourself about that, or you just kind of put the
Yeah,
past behind you and focused on the future?
um, I tried to focus on the future. I think I was hard on myself when I got the letter saying, don't come back for a year. And then I was like, all right, okay, now as soon as I said, because basically sending a letter in saying change your decision is me promising and having that panel, meeting with that panel was me like promising this university, I'm going to get it done now. So it's like, do I want to fail and then also look like I'm a bullshitter? And also, what would that? How ridiculous would that look if I pled to stay in and then I still failed because I didn't do any work? I think that was the other thing. I knew that it was because I just wasn't doing any work.
And were you sorry, at that point you went to the panel, were you like, this has to happen, I can't take 12 months off? Or were you kind of at peace with it of, okay, I really messed up and I might have to take 12 months, but I'm giving it my best shot to have another chance? Or were you like, I'm going to get another chance no matter what?
No, I think I was like, you guys can't do this to me.
Nice. So you had the conviction of like, I'll figure it
Yeah,
out. No, because I think that's really important. That's like a really important life skill. Like a lot of people would get that letter and be like, even drop out, or like they can't. It's like knowing there's always, if you're willing to. Obviously, it involves a lot of hard work, but if you're willing to do the hard work, the first bit of hard work is even to go and plead your case. But there's always, I think, or in most cases, there is a second chance
mm,
if you can believe in yourself. We all, I guess, we're lucky that we do have choices, and it's like people don't often see those choices, but when you do see those choices, that's when you can create an option that maybe you didn't know was there before.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, I definitely played my case pretty hard, but I was just foolish. I was very, very foolish. I was very lucky that they gave me the second chance, and I guess lesson to anyone is if you get given a second chance, then don't don't let it slip. Make the most of it.
And then how did you ever imagine that you would then end up at Cambridge and end up, well, I think the way you told it to me on that beautiful Greek island was about how special it was when you were invited back.
Yeah, actually, sorry, I didn't. Yeah, I've gone back to lecture at the university, so for me that was a real, like, I felt really proud of myself, and I felt like glad that shit. I felt glad that I they did give me the opportunity to make amends for my, I guess it'd be poor behaviour, and then yeah, getting invited to go back to lecture, and I've gone back several times now. Is It's awesome, and I love getting that opportunity. I love going back, and I love being able to talk in front of the students. It's I find it really rewarding, and I guess it's just a, yeah, like, I mean, lesson learned that I just needed to. I think it was a good lesson in, like, what are your priorities, and what's like a valuable way to spend my time. Was it delivering pizzas and sanding and varnishing wood, or was it putting my head down studying at a great kind of institution, or being able to be privileged enough to go to a university? So what was more valuable, studying? And now I can go back, I can talk in front of them. It's given me great opportunities to travel, to work, etc., etc. Versus when I was 19 years old, I thought making a couple extra $100 a week was a better use of my time.
And what would your advice be? So, on the Cambridge point, I know, I'm wondering if that affected your confidence and or having to face that you do have that on your record, that 1 year where you failed multiple subjects. Because, and then also if you have any advice for someone who I know who it was to do with other things that they were distracted by, mental health issues and things like that, but they didn't perform as well as they wanted to in the first year, and then made up for it as you did and got better grades through the rest of the degree, but they are worried about that and they are thinking about applying to Oxbridge, but they're really worried of, oh my God, I have this on
their record.
I have these grades on my transcript that I don't, because basically I think it's like it's thinking those grades don't represent what I'm capable of.
Yeah. Look, I think, I think this was another lesson that I took out of just that whole experience of being asked to leave and getting invited back in was I was always very transparent and very open about why I had kind of dropped the ball. And I felt when I applied at Cambridge for my master's, where I had to submit my transcript, that if it came up, I would just be as open and as transparent as I was to Melbourne Uni, because that's all you can, like, I don't know, that I felt if I tried to bullshit them, if I tried to create some like story as to why my marks looked like that, why there was a blemish on my record, that it just, that it would come across as inauthentic and it wouldn't work. The reality was it didn't come up in any of my interviews. And the rest of my marks and my CV must have been enough for them to say, and the interviews must have been enough for them. Same thing when I was pleading my case at Melbourne. I thought there's no point lying to these people. They're the ones who are, if I'm totally honest and transparent with them and tell them that I am serious and I do want to do it, then I don't know. I just think honesty is it's the cliche. Honesty is the best policy. Just being authentic and transparent, people appreciate that.
Great.
I guess being honest and transparent meant that their judgment wasn't clouded by any kind of, I don't know, if they felt like I wasn't being genuine with them, that would have affected their judgment.
Yeah. And then it doesn't necessarily work to there was still that guy who didn't budge, but it's much better than, being inauthentic or being dishonest, and because then you kind of, if you're just honest, you can just walk away with your head held high, I guess. That you've done your best.
Yeah.
Shall we, because it's been an hour and 20, shall I ask the last 3 questions?
Go for it, because it is midnight here as well. I'm pretty knackered.
But we can definitely have you on again. Obviously, you're always welcome if you're willing to. Because I think you have some other good stories to tell as well. Motivational, inspirational stuff.
Okay,
That's your opportunity to say, I'd love to come back on.
I'd love to come back on.
Or to say, no. you won't be hearing from me again. Okay. The three questions are: one, do you have any meditation or spiritual practices that help, that have a positive influence on your life?
Okay, answer is yes, I do. Meditation itself in the morning is really helpful for me. And I found recently cooking. It's just a very mindful practice for me to do. Really enjoy it.
Great. Question two, is there a book that's had a big impact on your life?
Good one. Good question. Probably say, that is a good one. I'd say the book The Uninhabitable Earth, which I read in 2019. I think I've recommended it to you before. That was that was really inspiration, motivation for me to pivot what I was doing in my research dissertation to something with a sustainability focus, which is now kind of my current career path.
Mm-hmm. And who wrote that?
What's his name?
But he's a scientist,
He's
presumably, or a
he's a journalist.
or a
Yeah,
journalist.
so he's a good communicator.
And last one, what three words describe the person you want to be in the world?
Tall, dark, handsome. No, kind, caring, and generous.
Nice. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, just thank you very much for having me on. Really enjoyed it. And apologies again for my stuffy nose and croaky voice.
Yeah, hope you're feeling better soon.
No, no worries. Thank you very much, Delia. Really appreciate it. And look forward to your upcoming newsletter and next episodes.